Hi, all you lovely creative people. This is June from Welcome Witch Lane Designs, and this is part two of the spooky tree. Part one of the spooky tree I did on a live that was a couple of weeks ago, but I promised on the live that I would show the remaining steps that I did or I used to complete the spooky tree. When you're working with polymer clay, especially on a live video, it's a little difficult because you have to put it in the oven to bake, and the thickness that I had of the polymer clay on my spooky tree armature was only about a quarter of an inch, less than a quarter of an inch, so I only baked it for about 20 minutes. But the following video shows the steps I did to complete the project. I don't have it here with me now, so I can't hold it up and show it to you because I already sent it out to the winner. And I hope that she enjoyed it. She received it and she said she liked it very much. So here's the rest of the video on how I completed the spooky tree. I hope you enjoy. So I baked the chopped translucent clay in the oven for 20 minutes at 275, and I let it sit in there for about a half an hour with the oven door open. And now I'm going to gently try to pry it. I've already loosened it up a little bit, but you have to be very, very gentle and just pry it around. And I'm trying to do this while it's still warm, so it has a little bit of, well, it's not totally brittled yet. That's the best way to describe it. I'm not rushing this. And if it doesn't come out, then we'll try something else. You know, you just trying to separate it. I don't know about your tension, but I put also a few other, I had a lot left over, so I just stuck them on. This is not meant to be perfect and beautiful. It's meant to look odd. A spooky tree with a bowl on top. I don't think it has, I mean, it can be gorgeous. It can be absolutely stunning, especially if you blow glass and make a beautiful swirled glass bowl. Or you can go and use a glass bowl in your house, buy one wherever, paint it, put waxes on it. Ooh, there we go. Felt a little hard spot there. Again, this takes a lot of patience. It's like I'm talking but holding my breath at the same time, which is a little weird. Thank goodness it's first thing in the morning. Otherwise, come on, boys. I feel you stuck down there. And come on. When you're making a smaller piece, this is a little bit easier. Oh, got that. When you're just making like the little bowls, like I said, on the other smaller light bulbs, if you wanted to make your own dishes for miniature scenes or a dollhouse, you could definitely do this technique. It would take you a while if you were doing a service for 8, unless you had a lot of light bulbs. I thought I heard it crack off. Whoa, yes. Whew, I don't know about you. So far that took 3 minutes. So the outside is dull, but the inside is all shiny because it baked against the smooth surface. Oh, this is still warm. That feels nice. Okay, so another thing I wanted to show you is when I work with polymer clay, there's some kind of an oily type finish on it. I might be painting this, I'm not sure. Plus some other clay got into it when I was putting it on the tree. So I'm just going to go over very gently with some acetone. Or if you only have nail polish remover, I believe nail polish remover is just acetone with some fragrance in it, because this removes everything, including the markings on your pad. Your the what do you call this? No cut pad or no whatever, you know what it is. Everybody has one. This one has another side to it. The other side is dark gray. But since I work with so much dark stuff, I figured to use the lighter gray. Now, as you can tell, just by doing a little bit of that acetone on my paper towel, I have taken the shine away from the inside. And you might want that shine, but if you want to color it, it's not going to take as well. It will not. Polymer clay doesn't take acrylic paints unless you, as well as if you wipe the surface, or you're just doing lots and lots of washes. So what's really happening is the paint, I think anyway, I'm sure someone's going to say that that's not really the paint. The washes creates enough of a tooth on the polymer clay for the rest of the polymer clay, the rest of the acrylic paint to stick to it. Okay, so here is my little bowl. I'm still undecided if I'm going to paint it. I got to see it with the tree and see how it looks with the tree. If it looks, oh, I'm getting banged. If it looks better unpainted, or maybe with a little color. And when I say painted, I'm probably going to use the alcohol inks. And this is, oh, another thing I wanted to say about the acetate. And this I learned from one of the tapes. Oh, Wendy Froud. By doing this, if you have some fibers, especially as a doll artist, if you have some fibers that are right below the surface, the acetate will take them right off. Okay, so I'll be back in a bit with the tree. So I took the spooky tree out of the refrigerator, and I'm going to add a little bit more texture to him, maybe a little bit more around his eyes and nose and mouth. But what I wanted to show you was, remember that big blob of clay that I had here, the translucent clay that I put the red ink in? Well, I decided to mix it up in my pasta machine. I mixed it up, and this is the color it came out. It's sort of like a pinky orange. It looks more orange on the screen for me anyway when I'm looking at my screen, but it's a pinky orange. But when it bakes, this is the color that it came out. Now this is definitely more orange. You can tell the difference a little bit. So I'll be able to use this clay for something, but I just wanted to show you what happens when you add inks to your clay. Now, if I would have baked this and it came out this color and I wanted it to be like a red mushroom top, I just would have put more ink on top of this and kept putting it, waiting for it to dry, kept putting it, and then I would have put a extra, once it was dry, I might have put some liquid polymer clay on top and baked it in the oven one more time just to make the color set. So I just wanted to show you the difference. It doesn't look as much of a difference here as it does in real life, because this is showing very orange, like I said, but it is more of a pinky color. Okay, so let's add some texture to this tree so we can get him in the oven. I'm using Cosclay, and Cosclay is a very, very soft clay and very easy to knead, a lot easier to knead than the Primo Sculpey. And I'm not going to be doing a lot of texture here because I really want to get him into the oven. Just adding some more pieces here and there, and trying not to smudge him because it's such a soft clay. Even though this guy was in the refrigerator, it is, I can still feel if I put a lot of pressure on this trying to do anything, I'm going to ruin his texture. So it's almost like I'm defeating my purpose. So the easiest thing to do with really soft clay like this, because you can bake polymer clay numerous times, is to just bake it and then add to it. And that is what I will do in case I see areas that I want to fix. After I bake this, I will put him back in the oven and bake him again. And with Cosclay, it is so soft that you really don't need to put any liquid polymer clay on it to make the clay stick, the non-baked clay to the baked clay. Most of the other time with other clays, I always do add a little bit of the liquid polymer clay onto the baked clay when I'm adding new clay pieces to it, because it makes it stick better. When you're baking it, it creates a better bond. I don't know why. I'm not that savvy on all of the chemical reactions to each other. Now, another thing is that if you were watching Where the Gnomes Are, love her channel, love, love, love her channel, you could do the same thing I'm doing with her technique with just the tin foil. Because you saw that I wrapped a lot of tin foil on my armature and the dowel that's in here. You saw that I wrapped it. You could do the same thing and use her technique if you don't want to use the polymer clay to make a smaller spooky tree. Go ahead, please do. It's, you know, it's what you have. She uses paper towels, tin foil, masking tape, and glue. Elmer's white glue, I believe she uses, because she mixes it out a little bit, mixes it with water to put the paper towels on. It's a wonderful way to do this. If you don't want to use polymer clay, I just, you know, everybody has their own medium that they use. And I am definitely going to try her technique one day, because I really love how, especially how the hollow logs came out. And if I ever decided to make a little house for some little mices, my mices, I may use her technique to do that, to make the house with it. So I'm really not doing anything that's sculpty, if is that a word? Sculptural? I'm not sure. Whatever. It's one of those words. I'm just really gliding a tool like this that I have, that I use all the time, on the clay to make it some kind of a bark looking effect. I've also, off camera, and I use that word also again. Oh gosh, I hate that word. I'm going to try to stop using it. I'm going to ban it like it's a curse word. You should all count how many times I use that word. And I should put dollars in the jar for it. I fixed the legs a little bit off camera. I bent them to just look a little bit more rooty to me. You know, you can go as far or as deep, as far as you want with the texture. If you don't have one of those and you have a pokey tool, well, go right ahead and use your pokey tool. If you don't have a pokey tool and you have a pencil, well, maybe you can even use a pencil or a ballpoint pen that ran out of ink. Just whatever you use for your polymer clay, you really can't use it for anything else. That's all. Now he's going to be painted, so you can see the masking tape here. I'm not concerned about it. The paint will get in there. I'm going to paint him with a couple of different coats of paint. And that's basically it as far as putting texture. Don't make it look even. Try to give it as much life as you can. The bowl, I don't know if I showed you pictures, the bowl fits very nice on here. So that's what he's going to look like. I haven't figured out if I'm going to color the bowl, and I will once I finish painting this guy. He's going to be more of a gray brown because I want him to look old like me. And that's about it. So I'm going to just continue giving him a little bit more texture here and there. You're seeing how I'm doing it. If you want to make like a hole in the tree, just press down and then go around and make it like a branch. He lost a branch over here. His mouth, I'm going to open that up a little bit, a little crooked, but can you see it? It's very hard to show black clay. It'll be much easier once he's baked and I start painting him. So I'm going to finish giving him a little texture, checking out areas to make sure that I like what I did. Then I'm going to come back and we're going to start painting him. Okay, so I'll see you in a bit. Okie dokie. So I'm hoping you can see some of the texture that's on this tree. I baked him and then I fixed some areas, especially around his face. This was the Cos clay. Why are my pins there? This is the Cos clay. So it's very easy to add polymer clay on, the raw Cos clay onto already baked Cos clay. And here is the bowl, and it fits right in here in my spooky tree. So now I'm going to paint it. I'm going to give it some dry brush techniques. I just got a plate because I don't have anything else right now. I'm using some black gesso because I want my first dry brush to be a dark gray color. Just going to stick it in there, which is going to make a little bit of a mess in there. Well, do we have another paintbrush we could use? Get some of this. Oh, and I'm using this chalk paint. It's off-white. It's called sheepskin. I've used it a ton of times before. I'm running out. It's getting very thick at the bottom. I just use this sheepskin because instead of using white, it's a little nicer than just stark white. It gives it a little bit of a warmer. The gray is a little bit warmer. And I want this one to be pretty dark. Mix it, and then I'm going to use my chip brush here because it's easier, I think. If not, I'll use that brush I just used to mix the paint to give me a dry brush. And then once I dry brush this, you'll start to see all the texture coming out. Now this is a little wetter than a total dry brush. I didn't like get all the paint off because I want it to cover a little bit more. There's going to be a few coats of paint on this. So I don't know, what would you call this? A wet dry brush? I come in with the grays first to give it like a neutral tone. And then I'll come in with the lighter tone, and that'll have more brown in it. Raw umber, to be exact. Raw umber that's been mixed with the chalk paint, the sheepskin. And that will really be a dry brush technique. And then when I'm finished with all of that painting, once this dries, we have a lot of dry time around here with these things. Sometimes it's better to go against the grain because then you're only highlighting the tops pretty much. You're leaving your darks in the deep crevices. You're leaving the color of the clay in the deep crevices there. I'm going to come back, I'm going to come back with a black brown wash just to tone down all the colors and make them feel like they all belong together. So while this might seem a little light to you. And, you know, there's some spots that are going into the crevices over here and there. That's okay. Sort of sporadic with where I go, so I really should just concentrate on one area and get it painted. It brings out all of the texture that you took the time to put into the tree when you were sculpting it. And you can see the tree much better now than you could when it was all black. On the screen, I can even see it better. And as you can see, this is not like stressful painting. This is, well, I guess anybody who's a real painter, it's not stressful for them. But this is free and easy. I just want to get the tree totally covered with this first coat. Sorry, I was chewing. Hope I didn't sound like a cow. Goodness gracious. The other reason why I like using the sheepskin, because this bowl is on a, it's a warmer tone. It's not the white to blue scale. It's more of the white, it's cream colors, light brown. So that's why I prefer, so the piece, I mean, it's two separate things. It's a tree with a bowl on it, but it looks better to me, in my eyes, if it sort of blends together, and it will blend together after I put the light brown, that with the raw umber, the sheepskin chalk paint with the raw umber. So if you're going to talk about paint values, the black that's still showing through in many places is my dark value. This is my mid-tone. And then, ooh, that's a little lighter. I must have gotten just some of the other stuff that I didn't mix in, some of the sheepskin. This is my mid-tone. And then I'm going to come back with my light tone and then with a wash. So I'm going to pause for a little bit and just let this dry. Now, the other thing that I did want to mention is I don't know. See, oh, that's just pieces when I was putting it on the clay raw, just to make sure that the limbs were supporting the bowl. I'll get them off with some of the acetone and I'll clean this up a little bit more because it's sort of all over the place. I really don't know if I'm going to be coloring this any color. If I was going to leave this on the silver tones, I would try to do something to make this look a little bit whiter and maybe put some silver highlights. But since I am really going to end up with a warmer gray, I think it'll fit better with this if I just leave this alone. Now, if the person who wins this wants this to be a different color, then we'll go from there. But for me, I'm just going to clean it up. I think, anyway, at this point, because if I put the browns on it and the greens, that looks really pretty. And the next time I come on, I'll show you a little bowl I made using the browns and the greens so that, you know, you can have an idea. But I'll be doing that. I'm doing this before the live video tonight when I'm giving the tree away. So We'll see. We'll just see. We have plenty of options. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. First layer of paint dried. And start to see all the lovely texture that was added into this. Okay, so we're going to make our light highlight coat. I'm going to use this brush without having the black in it, on it. Try to get some of the black out that I put in there. So this again is the chalk sheepskin. I have some, I'm going to be getting, one of those, whatever you call them. I'm not going to be getting this type of paint anymore. I'm just going to be getting the Delta coat or whatever it is. I think it's just as good as this paint, and I think it's less expensive, and it'll work just as well. But this is raw umber. I'm going to be mixing it. That's a nice color for my highlight. It's brown, okay, with a little bit of cream in it. I'm holding it up just to make sure it's a lighter value than the gray I already put there. And this is a very light coat now. This is going to be the lightest coat that I do. I washed out my chip brush. Try to get some paint into it. Lob it off. And then I'm going to very lightly, I just want it on the tops. So I am not applying pressure at all with this paintbrush. And I will be continuing. You don't need to see me do all of this. I'm going to be continuing to do this all over this little tree, putting my chip brush into the paint and then dabbing most of the paint off. And that's all I'm doing for the remainder of the tree, going all around, making sure I get everything. So now we have the black of the tree. And if you did not use black clay, your first coat of paint should be black. You can use gesso because gesso stays on this very well. Second coat was the dark gray, which was just the gesso and the sheepskin chalk paint. You could use whatever paints you have. You don't have to use the colors that I'm using. And this highlight coat is the raw umber and the sheepskin. And just to give you an idea, I think this sort of doesn't look as well on camera, but it sort of gives us the same type of tone as this is. This looks much yellower on my screen than what it is in real life. Like right around here, it looks very yellow. It's not yellow. It's more of a dark cream color. So I'm going to finish doing this, and then I'll come back for the dark brown black wash that I will be putting all over this when this dries. Okay, this doesn't take long to dry, the highlight coat. So I'm going to go and start doing my black brown wash. Again, I'm using a little bit of the raw umber and a tiny bit of the black gesso. And then, okay, hold on. I put that there. Lots of water. Just cleaned my water out. lots of water. I want it very watery. Maybe just a little bit darker. So take off what was ever on the paintbrush there. Now this is a warm, dark, well, yeah, dark brown. Yep. Well, it'll warm it up. Raw umber is lovely for adding to your paint. And if I'm going to start it on the back, because if I don't think, oh, should have highlighted that, missed that. Start it on the back if I don't think it's dark enough. Yeah, that's okay. What this is doing is just getting in those cracks again. Maybe there could be more pigment in here because you can barely see the difference between one and the other. But I can do another coat. Just think it's bringing out, if you can see the difference between the top and the bottom. Bringing out the darks a little bit more. And because it's so wet, made it a little too wet here. I was over excited with the wet. It's just bringing out the darks. And it's really just going over the highlights and not doing darkening the highlights very much. There you go. Stripping down, which is fine. Get it on his face. And basically he's done. I might add a little bit more paint to that. Hold on, I think I will. I think I went a little too hog wild on the highlighting, but I wanted to show the texture of this. So I'm just adding a little bit more gesso to this wash. It's a little bit more black. Okay. Get just a tad more brown. See, nothing really can be set in stone. I mean, as you can see, I'm darkening my wash right now. You don't have to get it right the first time. That's what's nice about working with polymer clay, because if you make a mistake, you can, and you bake it, you can always cut it off or add more clay to it after it's baked. That's why I love it, polymer clay, so much, because I don't always do things right the first time. And with paint, it's the same thing. If I don't really like this after all is said and done, I could paint it black again. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. Paint it black again and start from scratch. The only thing is a small amount of supplies. You saw how much paint I'm using. I'm using nothing. And time. But I'm also learning and just making decisions and having fun. It's engrossing. Trying not to hold it all. Okay, a little bit more in there. I think I like that color better. A little bit darker on the dark side. So I'm going to let this dry and I'll come back. I don't think I'm going to be putting any moss or anything else. I think I'm just going to leave it very plain as a spooky tree with a bowl on top. And I think the bowl, the color of the bowl very much matches again with the yellow. I don't know why everything is showing up so yellow. Maybe it's my lights have a yellow tone to it. But if you can see the top over here, that's basically the color. But I think the color of this, and the colors go pretty nicely together. They're uniform in color. So let's see, what might I do? I'm trying not to touch it while it's got the wash on. I might add a little bit. I want it too, too dark, but a little bit of black in his eyeballs to make that stand out a little bit more. Give that more dimension to make him look deep in his mouth. Oh, when I was highlighting, I definitely highlighted the ends of where the trunks were cut off. So we did that. I think that's pretty much done. So we're going to wait for him to dry again. I'm going to sign it underneath on the bottom. And I'll glue the top in. Well, I'm going to hold off on gluing the top in case someone doesn't like the color of the top and they want me to change it, the person who wins this. The only colors I would go with is a greenish brown to see. But again, this would be their spooky tree. But when this is dry, I'll come back. Okay, I put a little bit of a darker wash on it, and then I had to re-highlight again, and so I went back and forth a few times. But that's what you can do. You don't have to go with one. You can go back and forth as many times as you want to get the effect that you want to achieve. So, oh, it's still wet down here. I was going to sign it. Let's see if I can, if I dry that off. Probably pulling paint. Okay, I just put, oopsie, here we go. Just put my initials. J, G, and it's 22. Okay, so my spooky tree, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can pretty much. My spooky tree is done. Here's the top. I'll be raffling it off later on today, but you might not see this video until after it's been raffled off. I really like them. It's cute. It was a fun little craft to do, and it doesn't take a lot of sculpting. You can, ability. This was easy. You chop the clay up into little pieces, put it around a bowl, bake it, and there you go, and pry it off really gently. And this is just putting some wires together, covering them with masking tape, and building it up. And you can resculpt resculpt, do it again, bake it, do it again. It doesn't have to be perfect, or you can watch other people's tree, how they make their trees, and do it their way. I know where the gnomes are. I've said it before in the other video that I love her. She amazes me. She uses tin foil, masking tape, paper towels, and dipped in glue and paint, and she makes fabulous things. Hers are a little bit bigger, but you could use the same technique for this. So however you want to do it is fine. But I just enjoyed making him. So he's done, and until I see you again, have fun creating beauty. Hi, all you lovely creative people. This is June from Open Witch Lane Designs with part 2 of the spooky tree. Part 1 was a live, and I promised on the live that I would. Why is this camera shaking? What is it doing? Okay. Oh, it's moving, that's why. Okay, you little stinker. We'll fix you.